Check. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Teachers for Interactive Language Learning. Sorry I don't have a slide here, at least to start the session. I just happened to get online here, and we'll get started here in just a few minutes. As much of my presentation today will be screen sharing, so I'll be showing you some sites related to Teachers for Interactive Language Learning, and we'll also be opening up the mics and webcams. So I'd first like to ask those of you who are here to, if you could, provide a short introduction of yourself. If you teach, what do you teach, where you're located, maybe what time of the day it is, just to get an idea as to where you are all from, and what time of day it is. And we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Hello, Holly. Holly's from Virginia. I'm originally from St. Louis in the United States, but I'm currently residing in Mexico, in Aguascalientes, Mexico, which is in the center of the country. If you do also have a mic and or webcam, please let me know in the chat, and I'll be happy to activate your mic. These live sessions are for basically anyone who's interested in teaching English as an additional language, whether you are a certified teacher or just simply interested in helping others informally through tutoring or mentoring. You're more than welcome to participate in these discussions. These are open discussions, and I'll go into it just a little bit in more detail here in a few minutes as we get started. Hello, Ayman. Okay, so Holly says she learns, or to learn English with a worldwide perspective. Okay. Excellent. All right. So, yes, also indicate, as Holly has done, if you teach adults or children or adolescents. Hello, Rob. Okay, if you do have a microphone, if you could put a 1 in the chat box, and if you have a webcam, if you could type 2. So 1 for a mic only, and if you have a mic and webcam, 2, please. And I'll go ahead and activate your microphones and or webcams. Hello, Holly.
Hello.
Glad you could be here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, you caught a good time today.
Excellent. Excellent. I see that you're quite active in WizIQ, offering open sessions as well. And I haven't had the chance yet to enter, but I hope to. Okay, Rob, I'm trying to get your...
Will others join us here?
I'm sorry?
I'm just hoping others will join us
Yes,
here.
hopefully. Yes.
I see another 2. So.
And we have Designer H. I'm not sure if Designer H has a microphone. Hello, Rob.
Hi. Do I have sound?
Yep, sounds
yes.
good.
Okay.
And I don't hear much of an echo, so it sounds pretty good at this end. I'm not sure how you all...
the new WizIQ is great. We had 5 on mic the other day with no problem.
Great. Rob, do you have a headset, or I'm not sure, and Holly, you could probably answer this. Do you need a headset, or is it not really necessary to avoid the echo?
Huh. It used to be necessary. I think it always helps, but I'm not sure of that answer.
Okay, because it looks like,
Well, you let me know if it echoes and I'll silence myself.
okay. Okay, and Designer H, do you have a microphone? If you do have a mic, if you would like to put a 1 in the chat box, or a 2 if you have a webcam, if you'd like to speak. The idea with these sessions are to make it as interactive as possible, so it's always nice to be able to see your face and hear your voice. Okay, looks like he has, let me see if I can activate your microphone. If you'd like to say hello, Designer H.
Sometimes it does take a lag time on your end to get the voice activated. It seems to take an extra few seconds.
Yeah, I see that it's working in the background now. Designer H trying to again activate your microphone, but it looks like it's not working. So we'll keep trying a little bit later. You might want to check at your end also under device settings to see if your mic is set up. And let me know if you would like to speak, and I'll try again later during the session if you would like to speak. So these sessions are being recorded both through WizIQ, and I'm also using Camtasia. I always like to have a backup, a recording in case, you know, I sometimes upload clips to YouTube. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Just so you, actually, I'm getting some error messages, and that might just be at my end with regard to video streaming. So I may have issues at my end with bandwidth, even though it doesn't indicate at the top that I have a slow bandwidth, but I am getting an error. So that could just be me, but I'll try to ignore that unless there's a problem later on. Okay. All right. Yeah, so again, apologize for not having a slide here. I usually like to at least have an opening slide here to introduce the session, but for the sake of time, wasn't able to get that up and running. But most of what I had planned to talk about would be through a screen sharing. But these live sessions, Teachers for Interactive Language Learning, or a series of live sessions that I try to schedule basically to give teachers, educators, basically anyone interested in teaching English as an additional language an opportunity to interact, share ideas, experiences with others. So these are very informal conversations. I typically don't have a set agenda for each one of these talks, even though I do try to have a couple of things that that I'm interested in speaking about ready to discuss. But a lot of these sessions really are more about what you are interested in discussing, maybe some issues in the classroom that you face that you'd like to share with others, maybe even some successes and challenges that you face. But again, it's basically an open session, an open discussion. And what I am interested in, I teach English language, pre-service English language educators in Mexico, in Aguascalientes, Mexico. And I'm currently doing some research and getting close to the actual study that I'm going to be conducting here, hopefully in a couple of months. And I'm looking at researching informal pedagogical dialogues, basically informal discussions such as this, and how teachers form personal learning networks around those types of discussions. And so some of the pages that I'm going to share here in a few minutes will be in relation to the study that I'm involved with, but also they're all open spaces, so anyone can and is encouraged to participate as they wish. So trying to serve two purposes. One, trying to set up spaces online for the participants of my study, but also basically inviting anyone who wishes to partake in the interaction to do so. So before I get started discussing about some of the things that I was looking at this week, Are there any topics or issues that you all would like to discuss? Just getting started here. Anything that came across your personal learning network or blog posts that you came across that you found interesting, or something that you would like to throw out there?
I'm always interested in lurkers, how to draw out the lurkers and get them to participate. So that's something I'm always interested in. Lurkers, I think, are not lurking much of the time. They are doing a lot of processing, thinking, reflecting, sometimes sharing. And they're a powerful part of online learning, and that's something that I'm very interested in.
Are you interested in lurkers from, because I know you do some online sessions, and I'm assuming you'd also have, I believe you have a website, and are you more interested in drawing out the participation of lurkers in your online sessions, or more asynchronously through your websites, or both?
Both, and in addition, also strong interest professional development wise. So many educators are lurkers, and that's so challenging for me to understand because they know the benefit of participation and how much most often they're trying to encourage it, and yet find themselves to be lurkers. And I'm so curious about all aspects of lurking in all environments.
I'm here to look at the technology, but I also teach, and what I find is, for instance, on topic, hopefully, is I use Google Plus Hangouts, and I find a couple of differences in the technology. To say WYSIWYG, I don't need a headset, and I can communicate with body language a little bit better, get facial expressions, and be more animated when I don't wear a headset. It stops me from lurking. Oh.
Well, I wonder if did we lose Holly there? I wonder if there's a intimidation factor, though. And I'm thinking, just taking one example here, just either a Hangout or a WYSIWYG Live session where you can see our faces, as you mentioned, and we can basically have a conversation. But I wonder how much lurking is a result of maybe having, or maybe some educators are just not comfortable talking online, especially when a lot of these sessions are being recorded. If they're being uploaded subsequently to YouTube, they're out there, essentially or potentially forever. And I wonder if there's a intimidation factor that causes a lot of educators to lurk. And I guess we could say the same for asynchronous types or forms of communication, where maybe too that they feel maybe not comfortable, sharing their ideas, maybe sharing some challenges that they face, maybe not having the quote unquote right answer or what have you. I wonder if that's another, maybe a component to that. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, are educators easily intimidated? I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's an intimidation factor, or just simply not feeling comfortable with this form of communication?
I suppose if the audience is educators, then I suppose there's some. I don't have any experience with other educators other than you, and you're not easily intimidated. So my points of reference on that are, I don't know.
Because in my particular case.
So why do you suppose?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I typed it in.
No. Go ahead. You were.
Why is it happening? Why are people?
Okay, sorry.
Why are educators intimidated?
Sorry, Holly. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Rob. I'm just trying to get Holly's webcam going, and it looks. I keep activating it, and then it gets deactivated. So I'm not sure why that is, but I'll keep trying, Holly.
Benjamin, I'm going to speak up because I typed a note and you apparently missed it. I turned my mic and webcam off because I'm trying to eat a sandwich.
Oh, okay.
And when I'm
sorry.
done eating my sandwich, I'll put myself back on.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I have a hard
So
time.
goodbye for a moment.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have a hard time trying to get the information from the chat and conduct a conversation, but sorry about that. Okay, so Rob, I'm sorry. Could you rephrase the question again?
So I just said, why is that happening? Why are teachers intimidated?
Well, I know in my particular.
Why do you think that they are?
Well, in my particular case, again, I'm coming from a context where I teach pre-service English language educators in Mexico. So these are all Spanish-speaking students who are studying. They're all language learners themselves, and they're studying and preparing to be teachers, English teachers. So I would wonder, at least I guess.
I was actually speaking.
Sorry.
Actually, I was speaking more like on to the teacher side of it, to the educator, not to the students.
Well, yeah, that was.
I can see how they might not be used to it, but I thought that.
Well, I think my point, what I was leading,
and just to kind of add to that,
was that I think maybe some teachers, English teachers who are language learners themselves, that might add another layer of maybe being insecure if they are trying to articulate and communicate online, whether spoken or through written text. If English is not their native language, that might cause them to be reluctant to communicate, perhaps. I mean, that's a possibility.
I'm reading Holly's comments, and yeah, I certainly would prefer to be the guide on the side. I have found, though, I would share whatever if it's in language or whatever. I have found that some, for instance, on an evaluation, I had a student that said that Rob did not teach. He made us learn. And I'm thinking, yes, I made you learn. However, the student said that's a bad thing. Just an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I see that too.
To me.
Yeah, I see that too. I think there's kind of an assumption on the students, on the learner side, that the teacher should be more didactic, kind of more instructive, and trying to maybe take more control of the classroom, even though we want to try to be more like a facilitator. That sometimes even the expectation is that that the teacher should be doing more, should be talking more and lecturing more and doing more of the quote-unquote work, whereas the learner is more passive. I've seen that in my context for sure. But yeah, I mean, Holly asked, what is the purpose of school?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, actually what I'm going to do is with this sample of 35 students or so, I'm going to be the guide from the side. But I've already started, getting rapid feedback or attempting to get rapid feedback, and I'm going to do a statistical curve on it. And I'm sure that there's going to be some people that say, oh, this is really cool, I'm learning, and that'll be over on the high end. And then there's going to be some people that are going to be on the other end, it's a distribution. And I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to keep moving forward with the, I hope that you learn how to learn, ask Socratic questions, all that kind of stuff. Be the guide on the side. I'm going to continue with that, but I'm also going to monitor to see if that approach, whether it's language or whatever it is see how many people get it and also appreciate that type of learning. I don't know.
Well, Holly asked a good question regarding how would you define a teacher, and this kind of links back to, in fact, one of the topics that I was thinking about discussing today. Um, have either one of you or anyone in the chat, are you familiar with these blogs pertaining to this course, the Coursera, calamity? I think is how they phrased it in the blog. But there was supposedly a MOOC, right? There was a MOOC that was a course being held in Coursera, and I think it was open. It was for an online course. In fact, it's an online course. It's a MOOC for how to develop online courses, if I remember correctly. And I think they had opened it up, and they had some problems right out of the gate, and they ended up closing the course. So a lot of learners were upset that they closed the course. Has any of you have seen that blog or familiar with that course being canceled? One of the issues, and I don't have all the information about the course. Go ahead, Rob.
The thing I did see that was of note to me was that there was a course being given through Coursera, and but what they were doing is they were doing a Hangout. But even in the Hangout, it was still a little bit of a sage on the stage, because most of the time it was 10 people. You could see them sitting at the bottom, and the instructor was center stage, big screen. And so they would look, and occasionally they would pop up, but I found that the learners in that case would not voice as much as of their thoughts. They still went to the professor to be the guru. So I thought I saw the platform was interesting, but I found the level of engagement was discouraging. The learners were just being dumb boxes, not saying I think this. They weren't doing Socratic questioning. That why'd you ask that question? What's up with that? So I didn't. It was more of a or I think that's stupid. The other things that might occur in a social learning type of a thing.
Well, apparently in this particular course,
Sage on the stage and lectures, yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I gathered, one of the main problems was they started off the course, and I think one of the first things that the participants of the MOOC had to do in this Coursera Coursera. I have a hard time pronouncing that Coursera, but I'll try. One of the activities that they had to do from the very beginning was to divide up in groups, and they were asked to create groups in Google Drive. So apparently they had, the instructor had shared maybe a spreadsheet and asked all the participants to basically sign up and divide up into groups by adding, I guess, their name to the document. Now, I haven't seen the document, but apparently what happened was that some of them inadvertently had deleted other names, and they were adding, and so it just became a mess. A lot of information was lost, so maybe groups were formed, and then information was deleted, and it wasn't clear to some of the participants why they were dividing up in groups, and what was the objective of working in groups. And so there's a lot of uncertainty at the beginning with regard to trying to set up these groups, and some of the correspondence that happened between the teacher or facilitator and the students was going through these different plans. Like they started off trying to do one thing, and then they changed and started doing something else, trying to basically fix this problem. And apparently it just got out of hand, and based on that situation, I started thinking about teacher roles. And Holly asked, well, what is a teacher? And this whole idea about how much should the teacher really dictate to the learner as to how they're going to learn. How are they going to, in this case, divide up into groups? Is it really the teacher's role to set this up or have them divide up in groups, or should the learners themselves kind of cluster more organically, if you will, on their own, based on their own preferences and needs, um, depending on what they want to achieve from the course. So I think one thing that I gathered from just the little bit that I do know of this case is that the teacher tried to basically, force the learners to create groups. And there's two things. One side of it is the technology part, and I think that the Google servers couldn't handle all of the activity that was going on. That's one thing. But another thing too, and I think more importantly, is it really, and especially in a MOOC where really, if the potential participants could be enormous, is it really practical to even try to set up these groups? And what's even the reason for doing so? Is the teacher really wanting to have all this group activity in one place so the teacher can look through the activities, or that the participants themselves can look through the activities? I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Holly or Rob.
Hello again.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to interject and ask Mr. Emo, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but should have a mic? I'd love to hear more voices. It looks like there's just the 5 of us here, but it would be nice to hear more voices. And your comments are very interesting. I think we're both thinking along the same lines, that you need to establish a sense of community before strong chance of success will happen. I would love such an experience as that, joining a MOOC and being able to actually actively interact. I haven't explored too many MOOCs yet because I'm not a video learner. It's not my preference for learning. I want the hands-on part of it, and I don't like to not get responses. So if I am part of 200,000 people, I'm not feeling strongly connected. And yet when I do visit and see excellent presenters and an active conversation, I can become interested. So there are so many layers to how people interact. And I can't imagine in a MOOC, I think hundreds of thousands of people register intending to lurk and just silently, privately benefit. So for a MOOC, I think a very strong explanation up front would have to happen for it to be successful with what you're talking about.
Great, Holly. Thanks for that. Rob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that I think there's a tremendous side to social learning, and I think that needs to occur in, to give a visual on that. I put in a little link to Metcalf's diagram there, and it just shows that on communications that things become unmanageable when the group is too large as far as the social side of learning. And so what I do is I kind of explain that actually in a classroom as well. And I say, move into groups, and then I say, look, it gets too complicated when 30 people are trying to talk. Look at all the different lines that are in here. But if you are in a group, then you can be heard, and you can converse, and you can think, and you can do all those other things. So, and then of course there's always some people that say, no, I want to be over here, you talk to me and all of us, and we don't have to, all the typical things like this will give me an opportunity to do what I want to do during the class. I can pretend I'm listening. When you ask me a question, I can look away, pretend, all those other little things. But that's very difficult to do when it's a self-managed group. So I use, that's my thinking on how to get a conversation going, and I don't know that social learning is any better than, I'm not that, I don't have any evidence to say that the way that I'm doing it is the proper way. Just my own theories.
Well, I've participated in quite a few MOOCs over the years. I think my first was CCK08 and CCK09, and then there was Plink. Basically, with Stephen Downes and George Siemens MOOCs that they have set up over the years, I've typically followed. And I think I remember the first MOOC being a quite different experience than the rest because I was still kind of learning how to participate in the MOOC. And what I quickly found out was that that first MOOC, I spent more time on learning how to learn than the actual content, than the actual objective of the course. I just was trying to get my personal learning network in order and figure out how I was going to, communicate and get as much out of the course as I could. And what I found out, what worked for me, was that setting up blogs was the way to go. In CCK08, the first MOOC that they set up back in 2008, they had a Moodle site where they had Moodle forums, and they also encouraged everyone to also create their own space, whether it was a blog or wiki or some space that they were already used to using. And what I chose back then was to use a blog instead of participating in the Moodle. Even though I would say, now I don't have numbers to support this, but there was plenty of activity in the MOOC. A lot of people chose to participate in the MOOC as opposed to their own site, their own blog, for example. But I chose to set up my space, I guess, for in the blog, in my personal blog, and they used hashtags so that and they had a system where they could aggregate information across the web. So if you were to post something in your blog, they would bring that into a newsletter so that everyone would, there would be more likelihood that others would be able to see your comments. So they did a lot on that end, on the aggregation end, to help bring in information so that everyone could really choose the path, choose the way that they wanted to participate. And they also, as they normally do, they have periodic discussions. So they have lectures come in, and people that are really knowledgeable in the field come in and do great discussions. But my point here is that they didn't, even though they set up a Moodle, they approached it as just giving suggestions on how you might participate in this course, knowing that you're not going to be able to get all the information, all the content that's being made available, but that you are to basically filter through and siphon through the information that best interests you, and you would gravitate towards those individuals that you felt that you wanted to communicate with. In my particular case, and this has been pretty standard throughout all the Moodles or the MOOCs that I've been participating in, I get more out of the dialogue with the participants than I do necessarily the presenters or the facilitators of the course. I found that through the blogs and by way of using hashtags, I was able to find those who were not necessarily shared the same interests as me, but there was interesting dialogue. So even though there was a diversity of opinion, I felt that I gravitated to certain individuals that had interesting perspectives on the content that was being discussed in the MOOC. So in that way, the participants really kind of the participation emerged, and it wasn't like everyone was to work in groups, and it wasn't dictated on everyone should be in a Moodle or everyone should do this, but that each person really chose their own path. And you can facilitate that as much as much as you can. And perhaps in this particular case, in this Coursera course, I don't know. I haven't seen the details like I mentioned before, but perhaps that wasn't. They didn't facilitate that and explain to the learners from the beginning that there may be many different ways of participating in this course, and that each person might decide on how they wish to either form groups or interact with the content and with other individuals. But yeah, I think that it's just impossible to be able to uh, participate in a MOOC and feel like that you are able or even need to read all the content and participate with everybody that's involved. That I think it's more each person finding their way and clustering around ideas and people based on, again, their needs, wants, and learning preferences. So just want to throw that out there. Yeah, so it does take a lot of time. I agree, Holly. It takes, and I found if you looked at the percentage of time that I spent with MOOCs, I would say most of the time I spent lurking. And I still felt I got a lot out of the course. And I would kind of dip in and out of the course as time permitted, and as my interest in whatever's being discussed, came up, I would participate. But it was more, based on what I felt at the time, and if I had a few minutes and felt like posting a blog or responding to someone else's post, I would certainly do that. And for me, it works. And the good thing about most of these MOOCs is that when you do finish the course, most of the content and discussions stay out there. Whether it's in other blogs or even the Moodle, I think from CCKO8 is still available if people want to go back and look through some of those discussions.
I'm here for the technology side. So you have to give me permission now. I put some comments like, why don't you put a MOOC up on the screen and then speak to that observation,
Okay.
And that's what I do frequently. And then I don't know if you've noticed, I put Socratic questioning in. So show us so we can speak to that, and that's what I'm doing with my students online.
Okay, I'll try. Let me see if I can get this going. I'm assuming we can still have a discussion, and I don't know if I'll be able to see the chat when I do my screen share. I haven't been in WizIQ for a while, so they're changing the platform all the time. So hopefully I'll be able to see the chat while I do my screen share.
My take.
Now I haven't really prepared any to discuss this, so I'll see if I can find something quickly. Hopefully now you should be able to see my screen.
And
all right, let's see here if we can get.
I can see your screen, but you were speaking of, or I think that was your. What do your question was? What do you think of MOOCs?
Well, the point I was trying to make here is going back to Holly's initial question: what is a teacher? And I think that's a valid question, important, something to reflect upon. And when I look at the problem from this week, the discussions that were being made with regard to the Coursera course, I think one of the problems might have been the role that the person, the course designer, teacher, facilitator, whatever you want to label that person, the role that person took in trying to design the learning experience for others. In this case, maybe dictating too much about this idea of groups, trying to actually force these the participants into these groups when it really wasn't going to be practical, or maybe the purpose. Again, I'm not even sure what the purpose was for doing that. But when you look at a MOOC, and
can you go to Coursera and show everyone a MOOC?
Well, yeah, and there are many varieties of MOOCs. Now, the Coursera MOOC, I think most would consider an XMOOC, and an XMOOC being it's more of I would consider it a quote-unquote more traditional approach to an online course, in the sense that a lot of the content is made available through videos, and you may answer multiple choice types of questions, and it's more of a traditional approach to online learning, whereas maybe a C MOOC or a connectivist MOOC is more like what I described earlier with the CCK08. So what I'm going to do here is, I think most of us are kind of familiar with the Coursera type of MOOC. You know, I'm taking this Introduction to Philosophy.
Are you showing us? Are you showing us a MOOC?
Well, if you can see my screen, I'm showing you a MOOC in Coursera.
No.
We're only seeing a blank screen. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, so let me see here.
Me too.
So I guess
it's a success. Your screen is now shared.
All right, let me try it again. I stopped screen share, so now you should see the whiteboard. Is that true?
I see a whiteboard, but I don't see any. You know, we've lost our video.
Okay. I think the screen sharing works best if we stop our video, or I think it automatically stops our video.
All right, I'm going to turn my video off, and I'm going to try again to screen share. So let me know. Let's see here. Okay, share. Now,
I've had trouble with this screen share sometimes, and other times it works beautiful. So.
Okay, can you see my my desktop now?
Yes.
Now I can see. Now I can see. Welcome to Introduction to Philosophy.
Okay. Now this is obviously a course in Coursera, and they're calling this a MOOC, and I would consider this an XMOOC. And so this is very common or traditional approach. I would categorize it as being traditional, because it's basically just videos. So if you go here, week 1, week 2, there's video lectures. And then there are quizzes that you can take. And so you go through these videos basically, and there's some discussion forums if you want to add to the discussions, you know, that you can contribute and share ideas with others here. You have quizzes, peer assessments, but basically everything is contained in this one space. Okay, so this I would categorize as an XMOOC because everything, basically, you're forced to participate in this one space, and it's more of a, I would call it a broadcast type of delivery, because most of it's just basically the videos and you know, the forums. You could consider that some interaction going on there, which is fine, but essentially everything is in this one space. Now. Let me see if I can quickly find this. This is the first MOOC that I've participated in, CCK08. And this would be considered a C MOOC or a connectivist MOOC. And it's a completely different approach. So you'll notice here that, okay, I haven't looked at this information in a long time, but they initially had all of the content, the syllabus, basically all the information about the course on a wiki. And basically anyone could go in and adapt, make changes to the wiki. It looks like here, let's see if I can, this doesn't appear to be a wiki, but everything that you're seeing here, when I took it, it was basically set up on a wiki. So everyone can kind of contribute to it, even though the organizers had a specific objective in mind when they set up the course. Let me see if I can find, I may be in the wrong place.
I guess in WYSIQ,
what's that?
When you're doing a screen share, apparently we can't chat. Is that correct? We can't chat while you're doing a screen share?
Down at the bottom of your screen, you look up again, it goes automatically. You'll see attendee list, chat, live video stream.
Live video stream.
Down at the bottom. If you click on chat, it'll pop up again.
I got the chat now, thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to find that myself.
You
Down
gotta
at
go.
the bottom of your screen, yeah, it's new. It's changed a bit recently, and I still get confused when I try screen sharing.
So I'm sorry, Holly. Can you repeat that? How do you have the chat appear while you're doing screen share?
Down at the very bottom of your screen. At the bottom, you should see little gray boxes if you click on the one that says chat, but I don't know if we see it.
Yeah, I don't
I
see
had
it.
a lot of trouble the other day when I was screen sharing, trying to find my way back and forth.
Well, it looks like
Um,
I'm not going to be able to see the chat, so just chime
there's
in
there's
whenever.
a class tomorrow being offered by WizIQ on how to screen share tips and tricks, and I have conflicts, so I can't attend it, but I joined it so I can watch the presentation afterwards and try to learn how to use it better, because something doesn't work intuitively for me on WizIQ now.
Holly, have you participated in Google Plus Hangouts?
I love Hangouts. Love them, love them. Yes, I've done on air and regular. I have weekly Hangouts with my students.
And what's your assessment, your evaluation between WizEQ and Hangouts?
WizIQ is more reliable. Hangouts, I have a lot of students whose connection is not strong enough to stay with us, and they keep getting bumped and spend 20, 30 times an hour coming back in, rejoining. So there's a lot of frustration that way, but when they work, they're just beautiful. So Google's been improving and improving, and I hope that soon I can use them more. I also find it challenging that they're limited to 10 people.
Well, I actually like that. I actually like that because of the the little Metcalf thing there on social learning. That's my preference to have
Yes.
people. And it gets too
Yeah.
complicated when they're going to have a discussion of any kind or use Socratic thinking amongst each other when the size of the grouping. I'd rather have shorter duration or have them break out or whatever, or go to the coffee shop and talk about it. As long as
Often true. Yeah. Yeah. I've done over 800 classes on Skype, and some of them are so much fun when they're lurkers that might only do things in an hour, but they're part of it, and lurkers can't join in Hangouts easily. If it's Hangout on air, they can watch it later and get an idea of how they might participate.
I have a couple of blue faces that like to join in, and I let them because they're enrolled. But normally speaking, I would try to. I do begin by saying, it's very rude to be a lurker. It's very rude to be, and define what that is. And it's very rude to be a blue face.
Oh no, see,
And,
I don't worry about that of so many Muslim members of my site, and their culture says they do not show their face. So I try to get an image up, but
excellent point. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
I think
Yeah.
I don't know if you can still see my screen, but I finally found
Plink. I don't know Plink.
Okay,
Tell us about Plink.
Okay, this is actually the third MOOC. I was trying to find CCK08, CCK09, and it looks like that they have taken down that information. I think a lot of the information from the early MOOCs was from a university where George Siemens, I think, no longer works, and I'm not sure if that information was left out there. But this is a MOOC, a Personal Learning Environments Network and Knowledge MOOC, and basically you have a schedule here of different content that will be covered for each week. But basically, everyone uploads or shares comments through their own blogs, and I think that would be, the main way that most of them would share ideas. So they would use, excuse me, the hashtag Plink. I think it was Plink10 or Plink 2010 as a hashtag. And so in the subject area of their blog, when they post, they would include that hashtag, and then they had a program that aggregated or brought together all of that information across the web on a almost a daily basis, and in the form of a newsletter. So you would receive an email periodically and be able to have access to all of these blogs, all of these comments that were being posted across the web. So I think in Plink 2010, they did not use a Moodle to conduct forums, that basically everyone was able to just participate in their own site, their own space that they were used to, and share ideas about the content of this particular course. For me, that worked really well, and I think that I like this type of approach better than the Coursera approach because, again, you are contributing to your own space, and if you have your own blog, you might also want to try to attract attention to that blog. And for me personally, it really helped bring in traffic to my blog because just using that hashtag, lot of people came in and made comments that probably would not have that if we hadn't been participating in this particular course. And the idea too is that you're developing relationships, and you might find people that you end up following on Twitter, and subsequently having further discussions later on. And it's not just the actual content, but just the process of meeting and networking with others, and trying to find others that are in the field that you feel you can learn from. And for me, that's I think one of the greatest benefits of participating in this type of MOOC, the CMOOC, because again, it's more than just the content; it's the relationships that you form with other educators, other people in the field that have similar interests. So. I'm not showing you a whole lot here. I mean, there's like discussions here that, let's see. Okay, all right, I stand corrected. There was a Moodle, but again, I never participated in a Moodle, and I know as they progressed and were learning through these different MOOCs that they conducted over time, that Moodle became less of a tool used to share ideas, that it really moved more towards a blog type of a course. And so they called it the daily. This is, let's see, again, I haven't looked at this information in years. But you see here, they actually aggregated Twitter posts as well. So you could share ideas via Twitter and also blogs, even though I don't see the blogs.
I like the
here it is.
Questions that are is where's the interaction? So there might be 300 people in a Plink, but 4 of them are talking on one person's blog. I'm confused a bit about
that's it.
How you're building the
how you're building. I'm sorry, the what? Sorry, Holly, you cut off there. How you're building the what? What? I don't know if you said infrastructure. Okay, I lost. Let me see here. Lost Holly. Okay, for some reason I lost your audio. I'm not sure if you can still hear me. But from what I understand from the question is, well, how do you build maybe the infrastructure, or basically, let's say you have 300 people in a MOOC and only 4 people are participating in your own blog. That's for me personally, that was enough. That's part of the interaction. People that come to your blogs and they will make comments, and you maybe make comments to their blog. If it's someone that you want to follow, and you start clustering, you start building these clusters. So if you've got 300 people in a MOOC and you cluster around with 4 or 5 different individuals.
You hear Ben?
Yes, I hear you now.
Oh, we lost him again.
I hear you.
He's probably talking.
I hear you. Do you hear me? Okay, I'm going to close the screen share. Maybe that's causing a problem here, so I'm going to do this here.
He's probably...
It's in the way and deters from the learning. And that's
can you hear me?
The frustration I have and have learned to get.
Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
More and more used to, but not everyone has. For some people, if they had this experience, they would not try WizIQ again for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or never, because of the frustration with the technology. And so that's part of it all for me and for many people I talk with, is your comfort level with the technology glitches.
Yeah, I wonder if this group, meaning I don't know how many are in the room now. Oh, I can find out, I think. I wondered if we could and just do this thing quickly and use the Hangout as a simulation, as opposed to WYSIWYG, because I told you my interest is not on language specifically, but on learning technologies that don't interrupt. And it does require, as you mentioned, two things that are very valuable: cultural sensitivity and also bandwidth and technology. Do you have the bandwidth? And if you don't have the bandwidth, see, I actually do mine mobilely as well. I get on my cell phone, I walk outside, and I talk to a kid from a favela in Brazil. And I'm trying to get 10 people, all mobile devices, so that as long as we have the connectivity, then we can participate, show me, all that kind of stuff. And,
right. I don't have a smartphone, unfortunately. I cannot afford one yet. Hoping to this year, but the monthly fees are just a deterrent for me. I just can't. I give too much online and don't get paid enough for what I do. So until I find a grant or find some startup money to help support me, I'm not able at the moment. But I'm thrilled with the stories I hear and with what I see other colleagues doing. And the technology improves all the time. But my passion is to help those less privileged. So I put up with a lot of technology glitches. No, not hearing you.
No?
Yeah, sorry, Ben. Hallie and I have been having a great conversation here.
Okay.
I keep hoping to hear Mr. Emon, and I hear you.
You're back.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you mind repeating yourself?
Yeah, sure. The last 15 minutes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, and there's a note from Designer H is indicating that he'll go on mic.
Okay,
I will try
again.
The mic.
I sure will try.
Emon's mic.
And Emon does not have a mic because I don't have the option to activate his mic. Otherwise, I would try.
Oh.
So, but it looks like he doesn't have a mic. And I don't think Designer H, I'm not going to be able to activate either. So, I'm not sure why that is. But it doesn't want to activate. So anyway, I know we got cut off, and you had asked Hallie about about your concern, if I understood you correctly, about the MOOCs.
You're back.
And okay, so Designer H hears, okay. So anyway, but yeah, that's what I was trying to basically show is kind of the differences between the CMOOC and the XMOOC, and everybody's going to want, they will have their.
Would you like to speak? Is the question.
What's that, Rob?
Huh. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say goodbye very soon.
Okay. All right. I know we're getting close here to an hour, so I guess we'll go ahead and conclude. Having some audio problems here with WYSIWYG, so I'm not sure exactly why that is. But I would like to thank everyone for participating. It's always great to share ideas with others. I'm still trying to consider whether I'll continue using WYSIWYG or some other platform in the future, but right now it seems to be problematic.
Thanks, Ben, and Hallie, get a hold of me sometime. Let's hang out.
We'll try.
Okay, we'll go ahead and sign out. Thanks, everyone, and bye for now.
Oh,
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, here's my email, Hallie.